Welcome to Karibu Anawim's program, 15 Minutes at Dr. Zayli's Desk, where we explore topics related to living with a facial disfigurement. This program is for you, your loved ones, for educational purposes and professionals who would like to know more about living with facial disfigurement. Our presenters have lived experience, research background, or work with people living with facial disfigurement. It's important to begin the conversation with terminology that society understands and is clear. We use the word disfigurement as it is the medical and legal terminology. We recognise you may identify with other words such as visible difference or with your own diagnosis. Let's see where the conversation goes. So pull up a seat, grab a cuppa, and let's chat around the table with Karibu Anawim's 15 Minutes at Dr. Zayli's Desk.
Hi, and I'm your host.
15 Minutes at Dr. Zayli's
I don't know
Desk.
why that's happening again. Didn't stop it. Oh dear. I need to stop the loop track. Hi, I'm Dr. Zayli, and I'm your host for today. Today we are looking at April's topic, navigating relationships. And last week, we navigated through relationships past, present, and future. And this week, we get to look at and chat about this week's top chat topic, navigating through family relationships. So welcome everybody on board. Grab a cuppa. I've got mine. It's hot, and I'm having a sip. And tell us where you're coming from if you are live and watching, and if not, tell us anyway afterwards. And thank you, because I can see whether or not we've got any comments. And at the moment, there's no comments. So, should we get on with the idea of what we're going to talk about today? Firstly, I've broken it up into three parts. Firstly, parents living with facial disfigurement. Secondly, parents living with a child living with facial disfigurement. And thirdly, what to do with siblings, maybe. Now, if you have got any information or sage advice, please let us know and comment, because there's lots and lots of information out there that can make our world a better place for us. So parents living with a facial disfigurement, what could we be doing? Well, we need to be able to share, if we have a child, or even if we don't have a child, and even if we have a spouse, and hopefully by then, if we've got a spouse or a partner, we have already disclosed what our facial disfigurement is, and they love us regardless. However, when we're having a child, or we're thinking of having children, people living with facial disfigurement, I think it was 92% of people said that it was over 75% of people said that their facial disfigurement came into their thought process on whether or not they were going to have a child or not. And that's pretty sad. If all that's stopping us from having a child is our face, and no joke, it is something to think about, because I certainly did, but it didn't stop me from having a child. I just thought, it is a grieving process. As a mum, it is a grieving process, but it's such joy. It's such a joy to have a child. So there's three different areas, three things. Share with your child the difference between their face and your face, through play. Oh my gosh, have you got 1, 2 eyes? And I've got 1, 2 eyes, and my eyelid doesn't open like yours. Let's see whether or not it can. And then, it's got to be age appropriate, of course. And I'm just saying this to, younger children. And the second thing that I want to bring up is, answer their questions truthfully in age-appropriate language. If you've got a 14-year-old, you wouldn't be saying that sort of stuff. You'd be saying, something like, "Oh, I'm sorry, love, I didn't talk to you earlier about this, but I was involved I've survived a car accident as a newborn. I was 10 days old when the car accident happened, and they didn't even know whether or not I was going to get past year 10, and you're in year 9 or 14 or 15 years of age for everyone that's overseas, year 10 for us in Australia. And isn't that funny? If you're talking to a 14-year-old, they didn't think that I was going to be able to get through, year 10. Oh, how silly of them, sort of thing. So there's a few people online that I can see that have joined us. Is there any comments that you'd like to be making? If there is, you can type them up and I will be able to see them. And the third thing for parents living with a facial disfigurement is, don't fall into the trap of my child hasn't asked, they don't know, or they will ask when they want to know. Evidence suggests that being open and honest is a healthier way of handling things, and be proactive, because then you get to tell your story the way that you want, the way that's empowering for yourself and your child and your family. You get to be the storyteller. You get to be the storyteller of your face. There's a comment. Hang on. No, there's not a comment. Not yet. Secondly, parents with a child living with a facial disfigurement. Well, firstly, yet again, share with your child the difference between your face and theirs. And that's okay to do. Oh, I can see that you're red here and I'm not. Oh, you were born with a birthmark or a port wine stain, and use the big, huge words that they are. And this relates to X, Y, and Z in your body, or the reasons why you've got X, Y, and Z happening is because you were born with this beautiful port wine stain. Answer your child's questions truthfully. Don't wait until your child is able to ask questions, because if you've ever gone shopping with children, at the age of 3, they know the difference between them and themselves, them and others. So that's the reason why they will say embarrassing things like, "Look at that fat lady. That lady's fat," or "That man has only one leg, Mum. Did you see that?" Well, if they're saying that and they're pointing that out, they already know that there is a difference between them and, oh dear me, my nose, them and themselves, or the other person and themselves. And so this is the way that we are able to then help support people living with other differences. Say, yeah, that's right. Should we go up to him and say what happened to his leg? Ask him politely what happened to his leg? Or, honey, if that child has said, "That lady's fat," we might say that's not necessarily the right thing to say. And go up to the lady and chat to her and make sure that she's okay. So if you're just coming on board, there are people here, and if you want to leave comments, or if you want to have a comment, or if you want to leave your story, I could read it out later or during the conversation. And thirdly, what we're going to be talking about today is sibling relationships between yourself and the children, and the other children with your facially disfigured child. So depending on whether or not your child's disfigurement requires operations and hospital visits, make sure that the brothers and sisters may or may not have to attend. You know, it's important to prioritise some time with them as well, because they can feel left out. They can feel like you don't care. They, you know, which of course is wrong, because you love every child. But sometimes the reality is, and you can say, yes, I don't want to go to the hospital again, and neither does Joe want to go to the hospital, but it's for Joe that we are needing to go. So yes, let's go. And even if we're there and we're going there and Joe's in having surgery, you know, there are plenty of things to be doing together in hospital these days, you know, going to the cafeteria. I'm sure that, you know, children's hospitals these days have different programs running, and if it's available, then, you know, be proactive and get involved. You know, but it's important to prioritise some time for the other children as well as the child that's got the facial disfigurement, because the child with the facial disfigurement doesn't always want you to have to always only go to the hospital. You know, spend some quality time with the other children. Go for a walk, and may I suggest that we set a specific time of the week dedicated to child time, and guard that block of time. It could be, you know, early in the morning on one day if your family is in the morning, you know, morning people, or in the afternoon, you know, between 5 and or 4:30 and 6 o'clock if you've got a partner that'll cook, you know, for you, and then you set that time apart every Wednesday or whatever day that you don't have extracurricular activities on, and you block it out and you guard that time. You guard it and you say, no, nothing else is coming on, and then you set aside time for each of them. You know, you could rotate the children through. So, you know, if you've got 3 children, they'll at least get one go a week, one go a month, you know, of just having that quality time with you. Find out what their love language is. We will talk about that in other sessions, you know, and practice their love language, not your love language. And know that sometimes, you know, between siblings, facially disfigured child and then the non-facially disfigured child, you know, sometimes they will be strong advocates for the child. You know, don't boss my child, don't boss my sister, don't do this with my sister. Or sometimes the siblings don't wish to advocate, and then they just go, oh, I've had enough. I don't really want to talk about that sort of stuff. And that's okay too. You know, and sometimes, you know, depending on how you go as a family, will and the personalities of your children will depend a lot on what to do, and how the outcomes come out. Who knows? We all do our best, don't we, as parents? Oh, there is a comment. Thank you, Liz. She's saying, well-balanced advice. Thanks, Liz. And remember that it's okay not to be okay. And also, remember this week to practice some self-care and being kind to yourself. So with this, practicing self-care, remember last week we were talking about the havening technique? Well, this havening technique is, my bottom, is where it's a practice where they believe that the thoughts and the consequences of trauma and stressful life events are stored in the brain and are activated by conscious or involuntary control. You know, sometimes the recall occurs, and then the symptoms are generated. So, for example, if you have a smell of lavender, sort of thing. I don't like lavender. Lavender is not one of my favorite fragrances. So just pretend you've just had a traumatic experience with lavender. No, not lavender, but there was a lavender smell sensation through there, and you smell lavender, and instantly you've got a headache and your heart's palpitating. Now, you were quite calm before all that, and you're wondering why that might have happened. Well, that's because they're believing that the trauma and stressful life events are stored in the brain, and it can be activated by things like this smell of lavender, for example. So the havening techniques, which I'm now demonstrating, and last week I did this and that wasn't very nice. So I'm going to go this way or this way as well. Havening disrupts the pathways of generating these feelings, and this process is called synaptic depotentation. I can't even pronounce it. Depotentation, and it's like pulling a plug on a lit lamp, and research suggests that the emotions and sometimes even the ability when you do this that can be extinguished, these things. So in your breathing technique from last month, the box breath. And I don't think there's actually a specific space, but specific way of doing this. So as long as you bring your hands down from your shoulders to your elbows, rather firmly. You've got to firmly do it, not hard, but firm. And then your palms of your hands, you rub together in a circular motion, and then you can bring your hands from your forehead right past your chin like this. And this is a havening technique. So if we can practice that together, that would be good. Let's do it now. Just our arms, just to relax, just our face. About 3 times. Better not do this too much because I might fall asleep. And our hands. And just remember that you can, when you're practicing your self-care, you can exercise, you can use support groups, you can even go on our website, which has got some free self-help guides there. And next week, we are navigating relationships, and we're going to go navigating through expectations. So until then, thank you very much, Liz. She said that she has practiced too. But until then, it'll be the same bat time, same bat channel next week. So Friday next week at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And that's a wrap for this week. So remember, navigating relationships and navigating through expectations is next week's top chat topic. And hopefully, if I can get it right, I will be able to give you an outro too. Okay. Thank you.
By golly gosh, it's the end of Karibu Anawim's 15 Minutes at Dr. Zaley's Desk, and that's a wrap for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Please remember that all information given during this episode is for general application only. If you have any specific medical issues, as always, consult with your medical practitioner. Like, subscribe and share on whatever platform you find us on. For more information, please connect with Karibu Anawim on our website at karibuanawim.com. or email us at inquiries@karibuanawim.com.